Hey, Bindu, I hear we have a story this week that you looked at talking about search engine results and some sort of poisoning.
Yep. So, the search engine poisoning is not new, but the way this particular story has evolved is it's really looking at targeting human psychology. When you start to want to find an answer, you type a keyword in Google. So what this one is doing is, getting the user to type in keywords, specifically targeting financial, type of keywords. So you're looking for a bank routing number, you're looking for banking hours, during a certain holiday. The first search engine results page is usually the page one. It's populated with malicious links, also with ratings that are high, so it really doesn't get the user to think that this could actually lead them to a malicious site. So once you click on one of these, and then it entices you to download a Word document, and then brings in the Zeus malware, and it sort of onloads onto your machine, and then from that point on, it's stealing credentials.
Most people today, as we're teaching folks about clicking habits and clicking links, the one thing that we really haven't pushed home with end users is sort of search results. The results aren't necessarily all malicious. The vector here is that if you get your result higher up on the list, you're more likely to get people to click on it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think what I understand is, so the bad actors right now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to compromise specific servers that control the domains,
Yes.
and then push those results
To the top.
to the top.
Yep.
And in essence now creating a better percentage of clicks on their potential malware or their
So it's
malicious
content
links.
marketing with search engine optimization weaved in to entice the user to just click on the first couple of links.
Right.
It's really taking advantage of user behavior, which is very difficult to change. And you kind of go in there and you trust the results that the search engine is giving you. So these are real problems that I think could potentially lead to some greater dangers.
I did a recent search using some of these keywords that were pointed out, and up until 4 days ago, Google was still delivering, the top couple of pages still had the malicious links, right? So think about it from an end user perspective. We keep talking about security awareness and training. It is about being aware of all of these various ways the attack pattern is changing, right? We talk about threat landscape to change, but how often do we go back and train our users? It's usually once a quarter, right? But these things are happening, almost on a daily basis. So you sort of, just like as we read the newspaper, we sort of also need to be updated on how the threat tactic is changing.
Right. This is a tough one because I'm not sure what are things that you could do to try to protect against something like this.
I guess you could try to bookmark your links, as you go, and then just focus on using those bookmarks. But that's not going to help if it's a site that you don't normally go to.
Right.
It seems like this attack is focusing on the banking sites and things like that, right? So it's clearly there's a financial motive there. So obviously you always have to protect yourself, especially when you're going to some sort of financial site. The use cases here are really limitless. If you want to start targeting government employees, you want to start targeting people with special accesses and things like that. There's a lot of options from here for them.
Right. It's going to be tougher for the average user to protect themselves against something like this.
Right.
Viewers perhaps of this program might be a little more savvy and use things like sacrificial browsing environments and things like that, where you could be a little more frivolous with your clicking. I don't know how widespread it says it's, because in essence you still have to have that initial compromise of that server, right? So it's still somewhat limited, I would think.
Right.
Yeah, it's not really been seen much in the US, at least for now. But this is, I think, goes to show that you usually think a search engine is delivering you the right results. You really have that trust established, and you also, most often when we're looking for an answer, psychologically we're trying to get to the answer. So even if it's telling you to enable a JavaScript or enable a Word document, to be able to download, you're not going to think, do I want to get the answer, or do I want to think about, is this malicious, right? Just psychologically, you want to get to the answer. So I think that's what it's preying on. So really think before you click. We've said that before. Think about all of the ways that the trend is changing. You have to be aware if you're going to use these tools and technology, and Google is part of our life now where we use the search engine. Just be aware that the hacker tactics have changed. Just keep abreast, just like how you would of sort of news. It's about safety now, right? So you want to be aware.
Hey Manny, I heard you were reading about a new hacking group involved in targeting diplomats.
It's a look at a threat actor that has actually been around for a little while. Just recently, they actually became known. The nice thing about doing this type of analysis is to go back in time and then start associating things to this threat actor group. So as you mentioned, this group is actually been around now, they know, since at least 2015. And they're actually targeting government organizations in South America and Southeast Asia. They're going after government agencies. And they're very specific in the types of data that they're going after. They're targeting specific date ranges, specific documents, in specific directories. So they were actually going after very specific information.
So this is potentially some nation state actor wanting that foreign policy information. It's really looking for that sensitive information to be leaked.
The tricky thing about this piece of malware is actually a Trojan that they're using that they actually are hiding by changing the name of the malware itself to match things like like Adobe Update, right? So they're changing the name, and then what they do is they insert these things into directories on the target machine, into directories like within the normal
legitimate software.
Exactly.
So it just hides there, and people think it's legitimate.
Right.
So they're really trying to maintain their persistence on these malicious
Right.
on these machines. So this seems to be a very sophisticated actor. They seem to want to be really persistent, on the victims' networks.
And
Yeah.
it's also at the C-level stage, right? We talk about security awareness of the end users. Usually within C-level systems, they're really never part of these awareness trainings because you rely on an analyst to take care of your machine, and
Right.
you go about doing your job, your business. But I think it's also interesting to see how this group has been around since 2015. I'm sure they've collected quite a bit of information from an espionage perspective. Right? So this has been sneaky and sort of under the radar.
One of the things that was still unclear is still sort of what their initial vector is to get onto these machines. One thing that they did tie it to was something called Star Loader, which appears to be some sort of Trojan that allows them to load the malware Felismus onto the box. So
And I'm assuming additional tools that they need to use.
exactly, and it allows them to also, yes, push out additional tools. So they've seen evidence of other tools that they're using, like keyloggers and things that you typically see where where you're trying to steal either information or credentials. Once they've compromised the box, they see them moving laterally using some of the tools that they drop using the Star Loader. Some of the, in terms of, our audience and trying to protect against this. Now, again, they haven't seen anything sort of pointing to the U.S. yet, but we all seen that, it's only a matter of time, right? So I know some of the bigger AV providers already have some detections for things like Felismus and the Star Loader. If you read more into the details, there are some indicators that are given in terms of some of the sites that it may, try to go out to, reach out to, so you may be able to keep an eye on those as well. Although there are some indicators that we can use to try to protect ourselves, in essence, this is really just sort of learning tactics. Just learning about these tactics, I think, is very interesting.
Is this the A team of a typical actor, that they use to get into the network, and then maybe the B team or the C team goes and exfils the data? It's hard to say. It just remains to be seen where they pop up next.
So Manish, you have a story about the Chrome browser starting to help end users.
Yeah, that's right. So there was an announcement last week from Google that starting in Google Chrome 64, they're going to start blocking redirects from sketchy sites to different for ad campaigns. So this is a really great thing for, mitigating all of the ad fraud and things like that. So there's a lot of malware that gets distributed through these types of click fraud and adware, a lot of these malicious ad sites. So I think this is good generally for overall. While there are tools that exist right now, extensions and things like that, I think the average user is probably not security aware. Some of the things it's going to do is block third-party iframes from redirecting the browser to malicious sites or other ads. In Chrome 65, they're going to start blocking the redirects from the, when you click on a link, it opens up a new tab, and the old tab, it loads something malicious. So it's going to start blocking those, and it's going to warn the user about those. Some of the other things is if it'll block you from redirecting unless if you specifically click on an ad. It's going to start detecting those phony play buttons and some, the invisible overlays and start blocking those. But, this could start creating an environment where, a lot of the websites that you might go to are, they're broken sites. So, it might not be a great experience for the end user.
And yes, your browsing experience might not be as it used to be. There are websites that will block you, but give it a chance. I would say, the enhanced version is really going to help you with your secure browsing experience. It might not be an easy browsing experience in the beginning, but it definitely will be a secure browsing experience.
Google's launching this abusive experience report where developers can go and check their sites to see, the level of what, how their websites are classified.
Yeah, this is pretty neat, right? Because we talk a lot about how the end users start to click on links, and in start of the phishing campaign, you also start to download malware.
Right, all of the
and
malware,
for an average end user across different generations and age groups, I think this is a good starting point, as long as we keep the user experience still handleable.
Correct.
So.
I wonder what those site owners will do in this case where it's something that's built into the browser now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So will they continue to block those users and say, look, you can't see our content if you continue to use, the Chrome browser or something?
So I think the article said that 60% of web users are using the Chrome browser.
Right.
So that's, if I'm running a website, that's very, that would motivate me to make sure that this website works for most people using Chrome.
Right.
Because that's probably going to be a good source of income for me, and then I'd lose that. And that's kind of why they started that initiative to let these developers check their websites to see how they're classified. Hopefully, some of the other browsers start doing the similar types of things, and I think that's, it leads to a hygienic internet environment for a typical end user, right? A positive story for today, I think. So I'm thankful for the increase in cooperation between other corporations that are competing with each other to kind of keep the entire marketplace or the entire landscape a little more safe. Cooperation between the government and the private sector. I think all of that, when you bring all of that together, is really going to help in the overall safety of the internet.
I'm really thankful for the fact that security is on the agenda. We have a seat at the table. Businesses are talking about security, and we don't have to constantly justify why it's not an IT problem, but it's a business issue.
I am most thankful for probably, being in this field at this time. There's a serious shortage of cybersecurity personnel. So I'm thankful that I'm positioned to be in such a exciting, technology and a field. Thankful for being working for this great company and having such a great team, really.